So this is an interesting video, and it might get censored. I don't really care. I don't think it should, though. And if it does, that only means that Yahoo is part of the problem and not the solution. Any of you who followed me for a while, and any of you who've known me for a while, and any of you who watch this channel for the first time or whatever, or if you've known me from long before, you know that I've read a lot of books. A lot. I probably should have extra degrees that I don't have just for having read all the books that I read about psychology, about history, about political science, finance, just you name it. So it's with a very heavy heart that I have to make this video, because what happened in Israel was not an accident. It's being hailed as similar to 9/11, and I believe that, actually, and I'll tell you why. It's now common knowledge in my country that 9/11 was a plot by the government against the people. It's now common knowledge in my country, a lot of things about 9/11. And most of us in my country, don't believe the Bush administration or the government when it comes to the talking points for 9/11. There's just too many incongruencies and discrepancies and things that were blatantly false and wrong and a lie. We were told that lie, and for several reasons. And now those reasons are coming out for Israel and the Palestinians. 9/11 allowed the Bush administration to clamp down on people at home through a new organization called Homeland Security, which Homeland Security was instigated 6 months before 9/11, so they were planning 9/11 and they knew it. 9/11 allowed the Bush administration and the government to go after the local population and to go after other populations throughout the world, and to wreak financial destruction on different populations, including Iraq and Afghanistan, while maintaining a tight grip on the people at home. Because nobody liked George Bush. He was a very unpopular president. So I had to do something to try and rally the nation around him, have a crisis and a cause to go after some external enemy. This always happens. This is a historical event that's happened and repeated itself so many times. When a country has no external enemy anymore, the country starts to turn on itself. And that was what was happening with the United States. So the Bush administration created an external enemy. There were no weapons of mass destruction. Saddam Hussein never had any. And the reason for going into Afghanistan was its lithium fields and its poppy fields, which we had a stated purpose to go after poppies, and we never did. Because year after year, it was record growth of poppies. And in case you don't know, when you have a huge poppy field full of red, bright red flowers, it's kind of hard to miss, especially if you got hundreds of thousands of military combing the countryside looking for it, supposedly. So the stated mission for Afghanistan was a complete bogus lie, and covered up and made good on with the Barack Obama, who finally got Osama bin Laden or whatever. Yeah, right. But I want to fast forward now to Israel. And many of the things that just happened are very similar. And maybe worse. And I want to tell you why. Hamas decided to attack on the anniversary of the Yom Kippur War, the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War, and Israel didn't know? I mean, it's kind of an important date. How could you not pay attention to that date and know that date if you're an Israeli, especially if you're Benjamin Netanyahu, which, by the way, Benjamin Netanyahu is a very unpopular leader in his country, just like George Bush. So my point is that the Israeli government did know that Hamas is going to attack. That's my guess. They have so much surveillance equipment, so much electronics and surveillance and Pegasus and all this stuff to track people and find people and watch people. You think they didn't know that there was a massive thousands of men attack planned on the anniversary of the Yom Kippur War? I mean, come on. How naive do you have to be to believe that one? But what's worse is Hamas decided to attack a music festival and a kibbutz. And that music festival, by the way, was filled with people who were against Benjamin Netanyahu. They hated him. Many of them hated Benjamin Netanyahu. And probably a lot of people at the kibbutz were not in favor of Benjamin Netanyahu either. Not in favor of Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu is suffering the worst popularity of his life. And he had to do something. So it's my belief that Hamas was allowed to attack and kill Benjamin Netanyahu's detractors and enemies on purpose. And Benjamin Netanyahu gets to use the attack to do what he and his government always wanted to do, was go into Gaza Strip and kill as many Palestinians as they could, Arabs, Hamas, whatever, Hezbollah, the Islamic Jihad, all that stuff. They just wanted to get them. And they wanted a really good excuse as to why they should go get them. So they knew Hamas was planning an attack, and they probably even facilitated it. We'll never know because they'll keep it a secret. I want everybody to remember that the Israeli government has this wonderful program called Pegasus, and it's used to hack and control everybody worldwide, not just in Israel. They sold the program to Mexico. They sold the program to lots of countries. But the back door of the program allows the Israeli government and Mossad to watch everybody and anybody who has that program or who uses that program or who is watched by that program. And recently, since the attack on Israel, international surveillance devices and efforts and software like Pegasus have gone balls to the wall, 100%, even more against all the populations of the earth. And we're all being watched now, even for sure, even more than we were before, by these evil Mossad agents, I guess you could call them, who don't want you to know who they are. They picked this time to have Hamas attack them on purpose because Benjamin Netanyahu was very unpopular. And actually, I'm pretty sure there's another reason. There's a couple other reasons why. You see, anytime that the Israelis feel threatened, like they're about to get investigated because they did something wrong, all of a sudden something happens where everybody's got to all of a sudden now Israel's a victim. And everybody forgets about the heinous crimes the Israelis did. And for example, about a decade ago, the Mossad and South African agents, I've mentioned this in other videos, were all part of an organ trafficking ring where they were stealing organs from Brazil and other third world countries to sell them to rich people. A similar investigation was underway and is underway, and it might very well involve them again as being, these people, these entities that are involved in this organ trafficking, international organ trafficking. And of course, now that Israel's come to war and been attacked by Hamas, poor Israel, it's a victim now. Nobody wants to have to deal with trying to accuse them of organ trafficking at this time, because they're just you're talking to us about this thing when we're being attacked and we're this victim, and this has happened too in history many times. This is like a repeat and repeat walking down the street. And we've seen this before. This is not new. The problem is that it's hard to believe that Hamas didn't know about the music festival. And it's hard to believe that Hamas didn't know that the people at that music festival were enemies of Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government for the most part. I mean, in general, you don't attack the enemy of your enemy. The enemy of your enemy is usually your friend. So, like I said, I'm going to go back to my belief, and I'm telling you, this is like my, whatever you want to call it, my psychic prediction or whatever, based on all the psychology that I've read. and the political science and history books I've read, and Benjamin Netanyahu is a person, is an evil person. He's not a good man. He's just on the same level as Donald Trump and George Bush, a liar, a cheat, a thief, a fraud. In fact, Benjamin Netanyahu was one of Jeff Epstein's buddies. Okay. So just to recap here at the end of this video, one, yeah, this is very much like 9/11. 9/11 was an attack by the government on the people to subdue the people because they had a very unpopular president, President Bush, and he knew he was very unpopular and he needed to do something to rally the people. So yep, Benjamin Netanyahu, similar thing, but it's not going to work for him because everybody knows that he was probably involved in letting Hamas attack the people at the music festival. Number one. Number two, yes, okay. So yes, it's similar to 9/11. And no, I don't believe that the Israeli government did not know. With all the surveillance it has on the anniversary of the Yom Kippur War, it didn't know. Not possible. So actually, I'm going to blame the Israeli government as being part and parcel to the problem for having let Hamas attack it on purpose, for the purpose of being able to spy on its own population more, for the purpose of getting Benjamin Netanyahu more support from his people in his country, and for the purpose of being able to rationalize and justify the monitoring and surveillance of more and more people throughout the world because they're worried it might be attacked. And and of course the other purpose, which is Israel just never really liked the fact that they had to make an agreement with the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip and all that stuff. And people like Benjamin Netanyahu and his government they never wanted the Gaza Strip. So this is the perfect excuse to just go in and destroy it and annihilate any power structure at all and take it over. I mean, seriously, the segregation and the racism and discrimination that has happened between the Israelis and the Palestinians is just terrible, you know. And it's along the same lines as what white people did to blacks in my country when they were slaves. And after they were emancipated, they were still never really allowed to be free. They were segregated. In many states, their vote only counted as 1/3 or 2/3 of a vote up until like 1954. You know, so I don't believe any of what just happened was innocently played out by anybody. And I believe that the Israeli government knew it was going to get attacked, and it allowed it. I'll finish up there. It allowed the attack to happen because most of the people who were killed were actually people who were against Benjamin Netanyahu. Leopold Richard Bambriella is reporting to you about a very disturbing, violent situation in the world that apparently won't abate too soon. Good night.